YouTube. We're reading Srila Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, verse 17. Okay, here we go. Let me share the verse on screen from prabhupadbooks.com. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is prabhupadbooks.com, Srimad Bhagavatam 1517. Rupa manjri, can you start, Prabhu?
Sure.
Thank you.
Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajanapakvo tapatit tato yadi yatra kva vabhadram abhud amushakim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. Translation. Synonyms. Tyaktva, having forsaken. Swadharmam, one's own occupational engagement. Charana ambujam, the lotus feet. Hare, of Hari, the Lord. Bhajan, in the course of devotional service. Apakvaha, immature. Ata, for the matter of. Patet, falls down. Tataha, from that place. Yadi, if. Yatra, whereupon. Kva, what sort of. Va, or, used sarcastically. Abhadram, unfavorable. Abhut, shall happen. Amusya, of him. Kim, nothing. Kava artaha, what interest. Aptaha, obtained. Abhajatam, of the non-devotee. Swadharmataha, being engaged in occupational service. Translation. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Purport. As far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty-bound not only to his parents, family members, society, country, humanity, other living beings, the demigods, etc., but also to the great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one can relinquish all such duties and surrender unto the service of the Lord. So if one does so and becomes successful in the discharge of his devotional service unto the Lord, it is well and good. But it so happens sometimes that one surrenders himself unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment, and in the long run, due to so many other reasons, he falls down from the path of service by undesirable association. There are so many instances of this in the histories. Bharat Maharaj was obliged to take his birth as a stag due to his intimate attachment to a stag. He thought of this stag when he died. As such, in the next birth, he became a stag, although he did not forget the incident of his previous birth. Similarly, Chitraketu also fell down due to his offenses at the feet of Shiva. But in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord, even if there is a chance of falling down. Because even though one falls down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, he will never forget the lotus feet of the Lord. Once engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one will continue the service in all circumstances. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that even a small quantity of devotional service can save one from the most dangerous position. There are many instances of such examples in history. Ajamil is one of them. Ajamil in his early life was a devotee, but in his youth he fell down. Still, he was saved by the Lord at the end.
Right.
Very inspiring.
Right. Hare Krishna. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. It's a powerful statement. So, Prabhupada says that. So, how does one apply this statement to our, our everyday life or the ISKCON movement, where they have so many factions of gurus, and sometimes they fall down and they get demoted, but their understanding of Krishna consciousness, it seems they will eventually be successful. Whatever service they rendered is to their credit. Is that the right understanding? Collectively? This is what Srila Prabhupada is saying in a very direct way. Even though they might be the most sinful person, it seems they are still better situated than a non-devotee, at least according to this purport here. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Anything like to say, Ishan Prabhu? Any realizations or any insights?
Well, can you hear me nicely?
Yes, we can.
It's one thing that I may become initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, and maybe I may take certain vows, make certain promises before the sacred fire. And due to circumstances or whatever, I may not be able to fulfill my promise. Then I'm the loser for the time being. But to offend a pure devotee, to make offense at the lotus feet of Krishna's confidential servant is called the mad elephant offense. Mad elephant, most of us are familiar that with the idea that if we have a garden, very nice garden, everything is weeded and the rows are very neat and the plants are growing and the bushes, the fruit trees, everything nice. And we have a mad elephant going into the garden and just in a rage, tearing everything to pieces. That is compared as a metaphor to the offense if we offend a pure devotee. As Srila Prabhupada is Krishna's representative. Srila Prabhupada is Krishna's confidential servant, and he's given explicit instruction that when he departs, when he's no longer visible to us from with our eyes, so to speak, that his that the ISKCON organization should continue, and there's detailed descriptions that the ISKCON organization should make new devotees, but they should be Srila Prabhupada's devotees. There's no doubt about that. It's in his instruction. And regardless of whatever logic, they have so much logic. ISKCON, they try to prove it, and they go to other sources of what has been done traditionally and what the Vedic literature says about that there one must take initiation from a living guru and this and that, and we can go on and discuss these issues for hours or days together. But Srila Prabhupada has left explicit instructions. And Srila Prabhupada explains, he has explained in some of our previous purports that we're reading, that the spiritual master can make any kind of change he wants, and he is Shastra. He's not different from Shastra, that he is Krishna's confidential servant, and whatever he says is not different from what Krishna says. And that I read one purport in the 7th canto the other day where it said that when one takes initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, acharya, a pure devotee, Mahabhagavata, that one should relate to him exactly as one should relate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Don't forget for a moment that Arjuna, in the first 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, he has so many arguments with Krishna why he should not fight in this battle of Kurukshetra, and everything he says has some reference to Shastric. But Krishna says, you forget all of this. All of this so-called Shastric is, you do what I say. So in the same way, we do not use our own discretion, and when considering Srila Prabhupada's instructions, that it is not different from the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they have completely brushed this aside and tried to take Srila Prabhupada's position as spiritual master, pushed him aside, so to speak. Is inconceivable mad offense. And there are so many others, changing Srila Prabhupada's instructions on deity worship. Offering to Krishna before you offer to your spiritual master. When Srila Prabhupada said, no, we cannot serve Krishna directly. We can only serve Krishna through the disciplic succession. It goes up, our service goes up to Krishna through the disciplic succession, and prasadam comes down through the disciplic succession to us. But they're offering first to Krishna, or thinking they can. Then they say, Srila Prabhupada, do not change any of my books, not one comma, not one period, not one word. And they have made actually thousands upon thousands of changes in Srila Prabhupada's books. Whether it's grammatical or whether it's actually a change in meaning. It's a change is a change. And Srila Prabhupada has given vehement instruction not to do. So whether we talk about changing the books, Srila Prabhupada says, I am not writing these books. Krishna is writing these books, giving me, through me. Krishna is writing these books. if we consider who is spiritual, Srila Prabhupada says, new devotees will be my disciples. But if we, so whether we're concerned with the books, or whether we're concerned with new devotees, or whether we're concerned with deity worship, and so they have just taken complete liberty to ignore Srila Prabhupada's instructions, which are just, how can one approach Krishna? By brushing aside his instructions and saying, I'll approach Krishna in my own way. Is that possible, that a person can approach God by putting aside his instructions and saying, well, God says that this, and this, but I know better. I'll approach God the way I want. So to ignore Srila Prabhupada's instructions is as good as ignoring Krishna's instructions. And Krishna may forgive an offense to himself, but if one offends his pure devotee, if one offends his confidential, beloved servant, is a mad elephant, has gone into the garden. So what these people will experience, I cannot say, but but that is very, very different, that I'm falling away from that I did not finish my rounds today, or some other such thing, but I tried to come back. It's not good, but it can't be compared. There's to this mad elephant offense that you're talking about. So,
Yeah. Disobeying the orders of the spiritual master, and Srila Prabhupada gave every order of his very clearly and very, it's he established Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. Then he wrote the direction of management on how the movement should be managed. And then he wrote his final will and testament. So everything is there without any question, in black and white. So these are his direct orders on how the movement should carry on. So yes, that's a very good distinction, that the order of the spiritual master is so important, that if you neglect that order, then it's very
Detrimental.
detrimental. Yes, Ishan.
just like, why did Srila Prabhupada create the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust? He made it as a legal entity separate from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which he had created. Srila Prabhupada created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness with the government of the United States. He went through all of the red tape, so to speak, all of the legal. And when that was done, he created a book trust separate from ISKCON, that ISKCON should have no control over his books. He did this on purpose, and he said to his trustees that he created the book trust, and he appointed certain devotees. You manage this trust. And he said to them that the temples may fail, the devotees may fail, but my books, I want to be safe, and nothing should ever change or disturb these books. And what did ISKCON do? They went to the court, and they lied in the court, and they said, and the documentation of the court discussions, what was said in the court was, what did they say? They tried to convince the court that Srila Prabhupada is not the owner of these books. He has no right to create the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, because Srila Prabhupada is nothing but a servant that we have hired to write these books, and these are our books, not his books.
Hmm.
Talk about a mad elephant offense. Talk about what a thing to say. This is ISKCON's stand today. Why they have control of these books, because they have and are having the right to change a word, to change a comma, to change a period, because they have made the most terrible insult to Krishna's most confidential servant. So, what can I say? What do I know? But these things I understand. These people are the most offensive people to Krishna's pure devotee, which Krishna will take as millions of times more seriously than an offense to himself.
Any comments from our devotees here? Rupa manjri, Janaspriya Prabhu, Robert?
Well, I appreciate the emphasis Ishan is placing on Prabhupada's books. We need to meditate on his words because he's saying it's a mad elephant offense. It's like an inconceivable offense.
Yes. It's when you look at it with hindsight, Prabhupada was talking about these things when he was present. So just see, what happened after he left, or after his manifest departure, unmanifest.
And we're fortunate that there's people like Govinda Dasi who are using their influence to promote Prabhupada's original books.
Jai. Yes. Okay. Just some more discussion on this verse, then we'll continue to the next one. Here, Srila Prabhupada says, as far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty bound not only to his parents, family members, society, country, humanity, other living beings, the demigods, etc., but also to the great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. It is enjoined in the Srimad, in the scriptures, that one can relinquish all such duties and surrender unto the service of the Lord. So, Prabhupada is saying here that all this, we owe a gratitude and to all these living entities, but when we surrender unto the service of the Lord, one does not have to go through the whole process of trying to basically bypassing what is it saying here? Duty, right? Yes, duties. So, what are these duties that Srila Prabhupada is saying? Duties would mean service to your family, service to the country, and he's saying, you have all these things you need to do, but if you surrender unto Krishna, you don't have to, or you surrender unto a pure devotee, you bypass all these things. Here. So this process, if it's so potent and so powerful, why is it so hard, or it seems so hard? Is it because of our attachment to our material designations and our or our karma?
Because Maya is so powerful.
The illusionary energy of Krishna is so powerful that it's tying us up, even though the spirit soul is part and parcel of Krishna. Yes, Ishan Prabhu.
There are different ways to look at this. Krishna himself, Arjuna gives so many arguments about responsibility, social duty, this and that. They use the word dharma. Srila Prabhupada says, well, Krishna says, you give up all these dharma. This is Krishna's instruction at the end of Bhagavad Gita, sarva dharma parityagya. You give up all these ideas of your dharma, sarva dharman parityagya, mam ekam. Ekam means only me. Mam ekam sharanam raj. That you only surrender your heart to me. Aham, tvam, I, you, sarva papebhyo, all sinful reactions. Moksha isyami. Moksha means liberation. I'll free you from all sinful reaction. Mashucha, do not hesitate, do not fear, just do it. I will take care of everything. This is so. Does this mean necessarily that we have no social obligation? Actually, Krishna is telling Arjuna that he's a Kshatriya and he should behave like a Kshatriya. That if one is, whatever we are in our social position on the one hand, we should do that. But it's very different to do it. How? Am I attached to the result of the activity? Am I trying to do it in a way that I'll be successful? Do I care if I'm successful or not? Am I attached to the results? Or am I doing it, whatever my duty may be, understanding that, say I have a job, I'm doing my job. Who am I trying to please? Am I trying to please my boss or my client or whatever? If we understand that Krishna is the proprietor of everything, there's only one boss, Mama Ekam, me only, and we do everything, even in our duty for Krishna, then that becomes perfect. Or, on the other hand, Krishna says, but so, a person can do everything. Say I'm maintaining my family, I have a wife and or I have a husband and I have children and I have obligations to my society and homeowners association and this and that, whatever. So, but if I understand, if I do it with attachment, if I do it understanding that Krishna is actually in charge of everything the way it transpires. I may act, I may behave in a certain way, even in the right way, but the way the result is, whether it's seemingly by material standards, it may appear as a success or a failure. But if I do it with a feeling in my heart that I'm doing, that Krishna has given me this job. Actually, if I have whatever business or job I have, Krishna has made that arrangement. I've made an endeavor, but Krishna's in charge of the way everything works. This is inconceivable to a material mind. And Krishna is also in charge of what is the outcome of my activities. So if I do it, that my objective is nothing more than Krishna should be pleased with my activity. What is the test? Whether I'm desiring to be a success and trying to avoid being a failure on the one hand, or actually trying to please Krishna. What is the acid test? the litmus test.
Yes.
The test is that if we're actually acting with a devotional feeling, causeless knowledge and detachment is the result. One becomes totally free from all material anomalies in the heart, all material disappointment, all material frustration, all material impatience and anger. We become, in doing our duty without regard to success and failure, a devotee becomes ecstatic in the service of the Lord. And if he's not, it's only a measure of how much he has material attachment. So it's not necessarily that whether we have to give up our activities or not give up our activities. We can give up, we can retain our social position. Arjuna is told by Krishna to retain his social position, but to do them without consideration for success and failure, gain and loss, this and that, but do it all with love for Krishna. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, one can actually walk away from their family. One can walk away from their job. One can walk away from all social. It's not recommended for one who's not mature, but in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is making the point that even if one does give it all up in an attempt to become only to become Krishna's servant, only to do sadhana bhakti, only to preach, and can't do it nicely and falls down in some way, that because he has done that, Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita that he will protect such a person, and he will arrange it that such a person in the next life is born into a situation where a devotional life becomes very much available to him in every way. Every opportunity will be there. He'll be born into the house of a very qualified brahmana or devotee, or a very wealthy aristocratic family. He'll have Krishna will arrange for him so he can continue. Whereas if somebody does their material obligations perfectly, but they don't have devotion in their heart, they will not go to the spiritual world, but they'll take another birth in the material world. They'll continue in the cycle of birth and death, guaranteed. So what is the use of doing everything perfectly? What is the use of taking birth on Brahmaloka, the highest material planet in the material world? Even Lord Brahma is subject to the cycle of birth and death. So on the one hand, even if one gives up all of his material duties and tries to become Krishna's pure devotee and cannot do it nicely, Krishna will take charge of this devotee and make sure that he has every opportunity to continue moving towards the spiritual world in his next life. Whereas one who follows there are 22 Dharma Shastras, 22 books, Vedic books, on all of our social responsibilities. And if one does everything perfectly, but doesn't develop this love of God in the heart through his activity, the best he'll do is have so-called good karma. But good karma or bad karma, it is all bad. Good karma, bad karma, because karma means repetition in the cycle of birth and death. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that he's explaining and encouraging us according to what is written by Srila Vyasadeva, what is spoken by Narada Muni, that I don't have the page open, but in the verse, that if one doesn't do perfectly, even in his surrendering process, one way or another, but he's trying to become a devotee of Krishna, a pure devotee, then his progress is guaranteed, whether it's in another birth or whatever. And the examples are given. How you say his name?
Chitraketu?
Chitraketu. He was a great devotee, and he saw that Lord Shiva is sitting with Parvati, the goddess, the material nature, in an intimate way. And he was flying in an airplane, and he made some joke, and he was cursed by Parvati to become a demon. He became a demon, but but he was still, within his heart, was still a devotee. Bharat Maharaj, he fell down. He was self-realized, but he gave shelter to the deer. We know the story. And when he was thinking of the deer, when he died, some accident, so he took birth as a deer, but he never forgot, and he continued to be a pure devotee. There are different examples how Krishna always gives those who are trying to be a devotee, he gives them every opportunity to continue to advance in a nice way towards eternal life. So this is the way we're being encouraged in this book. Why? Because in the Vedic literatures and in Hindu culture today, people are trying to please this demigod, that demigod. We respect the demigods, but we do not become their servant. If we please, so the example is, they cannot give us eternal life. They can only give us material blessings. But the material blessing means another coffin for you. You get material blessings. If you aspire for material blessings, you'll get those material blessings, and you'll get another life of birth and death in the material world. So this is we have to understand the science of Krishna consciousness. But the people don't, and they're considering themselves as spiritual people. But Krishna says, you give up all these ideas, sarva dharmantra, and you just become my devotee, and I will take away all of these results from your fruitive activities that we've been engaged for millions of births in this way. Birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. I will take all that away if you just give me your heart. So this has been, whether we do it through our prescribed duty or whether we do it by throwing away our prescribed duty, one way or another, try to be a pure devotee under the directions of Krishna's pure devotee, and we'll be advancing towards eternal life in the spiritual world. Go back home, back to God.
Okay, let's read another verse here. Rupa, can you go over the Sanskrit? I will read the translation, synonyms and translation. Is it okay? My Sanskrit is not good.
Sure. Tyaktva swadharmam sharanam bhujam harer Bhajan patetato yadi yatra kva padhadram ahud amushakim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataha.
Tyaktva, being forsaken, dharmam, one's own occupational engagement, charana abhijum, the lotus feet, Hari of Hari, the Lord, bhajan, in the course of devotional service, apakava, immature, ata, for the matter of, but falls down, tata, from that place, yadi, if, yatra, whereupon, kva, what sort of, va, or, used sarcastically, abhadram, unfavorably, abhut, shall, happen, amusya, of him, kim, nothing, artha, what interest, apathe, obtained, abhijatam, of the non-devotee, swadharmatha, being engaged in occupational service. Translation.
We
One,
just read this one.
we did?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so let's go to the next one. All
Hare
right,
Krishna.
here we go.
18.
Tasyaiva heto prayeteta kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam upariyadaha ta labhyate dukavad anyataha sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa.
Tasya, for that purpose, eva, only, heot, reason, pariyateta, should, endeavor, kovidha, of one who is philosophically inclined, not labhyate, is not obtained, yet what? Brahmatham, wondering, upari adha, from top to bottom, tata, that, labhyate, can be obtained, dukhat, havat, like the miseries, anitha, as a result of previous work, sukham, sense enjoyment, kalena, in course of time, swarat, everywhere, gabhir, subtle, ramhasa, progress. Translation. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in the course of time. Just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them. Purport. Every man everywhere is trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment by various endeavors. Some men are busy engaged in trade, industry, economic development, political supremacy, etc. And some of them are engaged in fruitive work to become happy in the next life by attaining higher planets. It is said that on the moon, the inhabitants are fit for greater sense enjoyment by drinking soma rasa, and the Pritra Loka is obtained by good charitable work. So there are various programs for sense enjoyment either during this life or in the life after death. Some are trying to reach the moon or other planets by some mechanical arrangement, for they are now anxious to get into such planets without doing good work, but it is not to happen. By the law of the Supreme, different places are meant for different grades of living beings, according to the work they have performed. By good work only, By good work only, as prescribed in the scriptures, can one obtain birth in a good family, opulence, good education, and good bodily features. We see also that even in this life, one obtains a good education or money by good work. Similarly, in our next birth, we get such desirable positions only by good work. Otherwise, it would not so happen that two persons born in the same family at the same time
Same place.
same same place at the same time are seen differently placed according to previous work. But all such material positions are impermanent. The positions in the topmost Brahma Loka and in the lowest Patala are also changeable according to our own work. The philosophically inclined person must not be tempted by such changeable positions. He should try to get into the permanent life of bliss and knowledge, where he will not be forced to come back again to the miserable material world, either in this or that planet. Miseries and mixed happiness are two features of material life, and they are obtained in Brahmaloka and in other lokas also. They are also obtained in the life of the demigods and also in the life of the dogs and hogs. The miseries and mixed happiness of all living beings are only of different degree and quality, but no one is free from the miseries of death, old age, and disease. Similarly, everyone has his destined happiness also. No one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. Even if they are obtained, they can be lost again. One should not, therefore, waste time with these flimsy things. One should only endeavor to go back to Godhead. That should be the mission of everyone's life. Try. Srila Prabhupada gives many key points here. Well, he's saying no one can. Srila Prabhupada says here, at least the last few sentences, no one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. So, what does this actually mean? Are we already destined, according to our previous karma, that we are gonna get our due share of whatever material prosperity, and even if we try to improve our situation, it will not work. Is that the implication here, what Srila Prabhupada is implying?
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Yes, Ishan Prabhu.
It seems like, okay, say somebody is a businessman.
Hmm.
He becomes very wealthy.
Hmm.
He becomes he becomes the owner of Amazon.com or something.
Hmm.
At any moment, he can be in a car accident, or he can have a private airplane which will fall from the sky. His life will be finished.
Hmm.
He can't enjoy more than he's destined to enjoy.
Hmm.
He got some good karma from his past life, otherwise he wouldn't become the head of Amazon.com. Janmaishwarya Sutta Shri, as Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in this verse. Good birth, Janma, Aishwarya, very powerful, very wealthy. Sutta, very keen intelligence, good brain. Shri, bodily beauty, most handsome man, most beautiful woman. Everyone is worshiping in so many ways. One can have these things, but their ability to enjoy or suffer is fixed according to their previous lives, their activities, their actions, what we call karma, the reaction to their work. And even if one is the richest man in the world, the most apparent, seemingly intelligent man in the world, big scientist, philosopher, most handsome, beautiful person in the world, can anyone keep it? Old age will advance. We have our 50 to 100 years, and then everything starts to dwindle. If people can become old, they lose their beauty, they lose their intelligence. Yeah, one can be president of the United States, for instance, and have, what is that disease? Alzheimer's disease, like President Reagan. He had Alzheimer's disease. He's in charge of a country. Well, that's another consideration, a whole other idea. But these things are going on. In other words, our ability to enjoy or suffer, it's fixed. A person can be very, very, very beautiful, successful, powerful, and they can get the COVID. They can get cancer. The people do every day. They can get diabetes. They can, so they can have an accident. These things are happening every day. So it doesn't matter how hard we try to do everything properly and do all our duties. That will determine what will be our next life, or sometime in the future, we'll get results for what we're doing today. But our ability to be happy or unhappy in the present moment is a result of our previous activities, and there's nothing we can do to change that. No matter how hard we try, we have to be able to understand that. A materialist doesn't understand that. A materialist is thinking that if I work very hard, if I try very hard to be a good person, to be an industrious person, to be a responsible person, I'm going to be all happy. And then one moment, it's all gone. And even while we're here, there are so many problems that will happen all the time. The man has, or a woman has a husband or wife and family, and all of a sudden the husband or wife decides, no more. Now I want to have a new boyfriend, new girlfriend, and walks away from the whole family. There are millions. Today, people are seeing maybe 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 people in the United States, you can look online, is seeing a mental therapist because they're having so many emotional difficulties. They're trying so hard to be happy, and they're not happy. And suicide rates are climbing all over the world. People are so miserable that they're losing, they're prepared. They just want to escape by ending their life. So anyway, the person has to become very sober and understand but where there's a loophole in all of this. We can get out of the cycle of birth and death, or we can return to the spiritual world where we can have eternal life, no disease, no old age, and live with Krishna in a personal way. Be happy eternally is our real life. We can have that if we take to the process of cultivating pure devotional service under the direction, under the guidance of Krishna's pure devotee. And that this is the loophole and that anyone who is trying to become happy in the material world is simply a form of craziness. It's simply an inability to understand that this is not a place to be happy. Material world is a kind of insane asylum. Srila Prabhupada says at other times, that it's like a prison house for the soul who doesn't want to be Krishna's servant. He's a criminal. We're all criminals, all of us. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. Somehow or other, we've made this choice to try to enjoy outside of the realm, outside of the shelter of unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. Is our constitutional position. The spirit soul is made by Krishna, created by Krishna, because Krishna wants to be loved. And he created all of us to love him. And if we love him without desiring anything else, the residents of the spiritual world are madly in love with Krishna in so many ways. If we love Krishna, we become, is described like diving and surfacing in an ocean of ecstasy. The pure devotee can't contain. There's so much bliss, and that is automatically there as soon as one becomes a pure devotee of the Lord. And that's our concept. That's real happiness, unlimited eternal happiness. That's available to us. So we're here in the material world, and so many things are imposed upon us. Adhyatmic, Adidaivik, Adibhotik, the miseries of the mind and body, the miseries that other living entities impose on our mind and body, the miseries because of the demigods, providence, earthquakes, forest fires, wars, plagues, volcanoes, tidal waves, and repetition in the cycle of birth and death. And there's no real happiness here. We're thinking, Srila Prabhupada said, there's no real everyone here is in anxiety. Everyone here is trying to maintain a happy life in great anxiety, because everyone knows in their heart that things can change at every moment, no matter how hard we're trying. So we're advised to give all this up. And we come to our senses, become a little bit sane, at least realize that we're in a most unfavorable condition, but there is a way out to become again servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the guidance of Krishna's pure devotee, and go back home, back to Godhead. So an intelligent person will, very, very few, after all, very, very few people in this world can understand. They are thinking that the purpose of life is to prosper materially, and then I'll be happy. And this is an insanity, because everyone has seen that no matter how apparently successful anyone has been in all of history, no matter how successful, everyone grows old, everyone becomes sick, everyone dies, and the whole thing over and over again. So it's a kind of craziness. So, yeah, apparently only a person who is responding to this therapy, that we're forced to suffer so much, if the soul is so stubborn, perverse, wants to be Krishna. We all want to be God in so many ways. So if one is suffering so much and really is willing and ready to hear what is my real position, then Krishna gives him the intelligence to be able to hear from a pure devotee what is the path back home, back to Godhead.
Right.
Hare Krishna.
Rupa manjri Prabhu, any comments or realizations you'd like to share?
Just that I appreciate Ishan Prabhu's statements. They're very inspiring.
Right. Yeah, Ishan Prabhu, you were saying about death can come at any moment. There was this basketball star, he was a very rich person. He I think his name was something Bryant, and
Kobe?
yeah, and it kind of reminded me of he had everything, all that, and all of a sudden, plane crash and everything got wiped out. So. Like you said, even if they're obtained, they can be lost again. So
And even if nothing happens, they're gonna die eventually. So they're gonna have to say goodbye to everything when they die.
yes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of someone moving into a new house, and you say to him, no matter how beautiful you make this house, you can't keep it. You can't keep it. So how do we describe the mentality of a person who ignores that and puts all his energy into making the house so beautiful? You can't keep. It's a craziness. But that intelligence and the ability to understand, the whole world is engaged in this way. The whole world is engaged. They have a plan. Everyone's going to university. Why? He's going to make more money. He's going to make more money. He's going to have a nice relationship. He has a nice car, a nice family, a nice property, a house. He has a good position, social position in society. He's respected, everything. He's going to have a wonderful. He's going to attract a wonderful wife. He's going to have a successful family. He's going to be famous. He's going to be respected. He's going to have everything. And at any moment, it's all gone. And this is their life plan. This is everyone's life plan. They're not going to university. How can I become a pure devotee and get out of this terrible position I'm in? They're going there. They're trying. It's all about material advancement. There is no material advancement. There's no such thing as material advancement. It is all destined to end in catastrophe, one way or another, on the deathbed, one way or another. So, but of course, a person has to first believe that this is the reality, what we're describing.
Yes.
But even a person doesn't believe this is the reality. They have to face the fact that can't keep anything here. It's a useless, silly struggle. That then gradually the health fails. Gradually, one becomes old. Gradually, people are going to doctors. The doctor is taking the sex hormone out of the monkeys, injecting into the man, so he can have sex life now. It's true. These
Well,
things are there. There are so many pills.
yes, yes.
What they have, what do they call erectile dysfunction?
Yeah.
That people are they cannot. People are committing suicide because they cannot have sex anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
People are becoming divorced because the husband's not satisfied in sex life, or the wife is not satisfied in sex life. So they throw the whole thing aside, and family, everything, so then they can have a few minutes in bed, and then go back to work again, and then become old and diseased. And so it's a kind of craziness. Um, that craziness is designed by Krishna to gradually wear down our enthusiasm for trying to pursue happiness independent of his pure devotional service. And the same, so we're in the insane asylum, and most of us are just totally crazy like this. So we're in a very strange position. If you try to go the other way, those who are, there's always a great struggle between the devotees and the non-devotees. The non-devotees, yeah, Krishna sends his pure devotees, his confidential servants to this world to save us from this terrible struggle. And give us eternal life in the spiritual world. And usually we try to kill them.
Yeah.
Again and again. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, was informed by the police in Vrindavan that there was a plan to kill him, and they should, the police should accept the bribe and look aside so they can kill him. But Jesus was crucified. What's the fault of these people? Anyone who tries to really do good in this world, they become killed. Even on a material platform, different countries, imperialism. The whole world is filled with imperialism. All of whether the Europeans took over Africa or the Europeans took over the land of America, we were taught as children that in days of yore from England's shore, Wolfe the dauntless hero came. He planted firm Britannia's flag on Canada's fair domain. He claimed it for they did it. The British took over all of India. The Europeans took over Africa. The Americans take all over South America. The Spanish came. They to make slavery. Why did they start to import from from Africa black people, the Negro race, into South America? Because the natives in South America, they were dying as slaves. And so they were running out of slaves, so they had to take from Africa. So it's so terrible, this world, because of these people who want to exploit. This is not a place to be happy. This is a terrible place. So we have this chance. We have to be very sober and forget about what other people think of us, what they think. What do they think of us? That we're trying to be devotees. We want to chant Hare Krishna. We want to read these books. We want to tell other people about Krishna, share this information, and they try to stop us in so many ways, and they think we're crazy. So Srila Prabhupada wrote a pamphlet. It's called Who is Crazy? So we're the only ones who are sane on this planet. As much as we understand the need, the necessity to try every day, how can I be more devotional? How can I try to do something, some little thing, anything? I have to do so many things. I have to clean the dishes. I have to do the laundry. I have to sweep the floor. But it's whose floor is it? It's Krishna's floor. I just say, my dear Krishna, I'm sweeping. Please help me how I can feel in my heart that I'm doing this for you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thank you for sending Srila Prabhupada to explain this to me. Please accept this as devotional service. It doesn't matter, big thing, small thing, but everything should be done in this way. So this is the beginning of the cure. We're in an insane asylum. We're in the prison for our reformation, and this is a chance. We have this chance, so we should try. And it doesn't matter that we forget, that we get distracted, that we become fruitive, that we're concerned about success and failure. It's going to happen. It's guaranteed. But again, we keep coming back. We keep coming back and trying to, again, under Srila Prabhupada's direction, to be devotee. Krishna knows that we're trying, and he will take charge of us, and he'll give us more opportunity. Life after life, it will only increase until it becomes spontaneous. Just like you try to start a Model T Ford, before they had these modern cars, electric cars. You had to crank the car like a motor, and I use a chainsaw to make firewood. I'm living in the forest. You pull, vroom, 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 and then it keeps. So that means you don't have to be pulling so hard. It spontaneously starts going on its own. It will come if we keep trying to be a devotee. We'll reach the point where we spontaneously don't want anything else other than to be pleasing to Krishna, pleasing to Krishna's pure devotee. We'll love it. We will come to that point. So we should just keep trying like that. It's a wonder we have this opportunity. Imagine not knowing about this and just for doing all this effort to be happy, to lead a nice life, all for nothing. So we're so fortunate so we should take full advantage to our present capacity, and it's all progressive, only progressive. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai, can we do one more verse, Ishan Prabhu? One last verse?
Yeah.
All
Hare Krishna.
Excellent. So we'll do one more verse and then we'll call it a night. All right. Here we go.
Ah.
Can you start it off, Ishan Prabhu?
Okay. Text number 19. Navai chano jatu kata chana vrajan chana vrajan mukunda seviyan yavad anga samshrutin smaran mukundangriyu upagu hanamam hananam punar, forgive me, vidhatam ichen narasa graho jana. Na, never. Vai, certainly. Jana, a person. Jatu, at any time. Kata, shana. Somehow or other, avrajet does not undergo mukunda sevi, the devotee of the Lord, anyavat, like others, anga, oh my dear, samshrutim, material existence, smaran, remembering, mukunda angri, the lotus feet of the Lord, upaguhanam, embracing, puna, again, vihitam, willing to give up ichchet, desire, na, never, rasa, graha, one who has relished the mellow. Jana, person, translation by Srila Prabhupada. My dear Vyas, Narada Muni is talking to Vyasadeva. They're having a pastime for us. They're all from the spiritual world, but it's like a kind of a theater, so that we can learn something from this. My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of the Lord sometimes falls down, somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, like fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. A person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A devotee of the Lord automatically becomes uninterested in the enchantment of the material existence, because he's rasa graha, one who has tasted the sweetness of the lotus feet of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says, a man who has jaundice, sugar candy tastes to him bitter. That's a symptom of his, but by, so we're not enjoying so much this devotional life. But Srila Prabhupada says, but it'll happen. But as the man takes the sugar candy as the prescribed cure for his liver disease, the sweetness starts to come again. It will come. So, Srila Prabhupada showed me, he rolled up his sleeve and pretended he was injecting some narcotics in his, and said, have you seen it? He said, sure. This Krishna consciousness, keep going. It's like this. You're going to become addicted to it. You'll love it. You'll become mad after it. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada says, there are certainly many instances where devotees of the Lord have fallen down due to uncongenial association, just like fruitive workers. They're always prone to degradation. But even though he falls down, a devotee, he's never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi, a fruitive worker. A karmi, he suffers the result of his fruitive reactions. Whereas a devotee is reformed. He's reformed by chastisement, directed by the Lord himself. He goes astray, in other words, and but the suffering that we get in this world, it's like to keep us back on path. Get back. We need a little zap, a little, just like people have dogs today. And there's a dog collar, and if the dog is doing something or running to, the person has a wireless device that he can zap the dog through the collar with an electric shock. That we're like that. You know how the dog is running, sniffing, this, that. If we're sniffing in the wrong direction, Krishna gives us a little zap. So the karmi, Srila Prabhupada, suffers the result of his fruitive reactions, whereas the devotee, he's reformed by this chastisement, which is directed by the Lord himself. The sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king, they're not the one and the same. An orphan is really poor because he has no one to take care of him. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as the orphan, always under the vigilance of his capable father. The devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, he sometimes imitates the fruitive workers. The fruitive workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee, he foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. That's strange, but true. We've seen that. I've seen there was one pujari. He was the head pujari in Los Angeles when I lived in that community. He walked away with $100,000.
Well,
People, they do these things. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. There was one devotee, he's now a so-called guru in Ishan, Gopal Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada wanted Hansadutta to be president of the Krishna Balaram temple. Well, Gopal Krishna was thinking he was going to become the president of the, and he was so upset that Srila Prabhupada had made somebody else the president that he refused to speak with Srila Prabhupada when Srila Prabhupada sent for him. Similarly, Shyam Sundar was the president of. He was the devotee who had the most close connection with George Harrison, but he couldn't manage anything nicely. So the center, I forget, what do they call that center in England that was purchased by George Harrison?
Bhaktivedanta Manor.
Yeah, so Bhakti, it was on the verge of financial collapse. So Srila Prabhupada directed Hansadutta, you take charge, save this ship from sinking. So Shamsundar refused to send Srila Prabhupada money to come to England. So these people have material desires, even as devotees. And these are the so-called leaders in our society. The more powerful they are as individuals, the more dangerous it is for them. It goes to their head. These people, those 11 who became the so-called they became so-called pure devotees. They wanted everyone to worship them after Srila Prabhupada departed. They were all the biggest administrators in the society. But because they were more powerful than the average one, their hearts were infected with desire to be something special. The Janmashwarya Sutta Shri. Good karma, I mean, born in a very prestigious family. You know, you could be born the prince and the son or daughter of the king or queen of England. You could be, okay, John Aishwarya, very powerful, very wealthy. Yeah, you can become multimillionaire. Everyone who serves you bows to you. Anything, yes, sir, may I serve you? Suit a very big brain, you can memorize Bhagavad Gita, you can become a great scientist, you can invent so many things. Shri, you can be the most handsome, most beautiful. What does it do for people? And some of these people become devotees. They have a wonderful karmic result. And what happened? It's the greatest, what's the word? Temptation. It's the greatest temptation. It's a disqualification in most cases for a person to have these wonderful karma. They cannot become a devotee because it's too great a temptation and they want to become something great. So such foolish devotees, sometimes they're put in, similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks, why would Srila Prabhupada write like this? Because he knows how crazy we are, how tempted we are. We all want to be Krishna. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. He knows what we're like. Such foolish devotees, they're sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord himself as a special favor. He may remove all material paraphernalia, just like Hansadutta. Now, I know Hansadutta because he brought me to this movement when I was in Montreal. He came and lived in my house, and he convinced me to look into this subject of Krishna consciousness. He became he wanted to please Srila Prabhupada. He opened about 25 temples in Europe and in Canada and whatever.
Hansadutta, yes.
Yeah. So Hansadutta told me that Srila Prabhupada told him, don't think you're doing this. These people are already ready to hear about it. You give them opportunity to read my books and you try to help them, but don't think. Anyway, he became so intoxicated with it. He thought that now I'm going to become a guru. And so what were we reading there? Can you bring that up again? Because Srila Prabhupada says, sometimes such foolish devotees, similarly a devotee, a neophyte, these are all neophytes, these people wanting to be guru. They foolishly think of accumulating some power in exchange for devotional service, and such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord himself, and as a special favor, he may remove all material paraphernalia, everything. By so Hans said he lost everything, and then he again said, "Okay." And this as a special favor, Krishna, Punar Musika Baba, again become a mouse. I've made you powerful. I've given you your position. You can be a devotee who's spreading Krishna consciousness, and you went to your head, and you thought, now I'm going to be somebody great, and then Krishna pulls the plug. So as a special favor, he may remove all this paraphernalia, and by such acts.
You mentioned one point that I'd like to get some clarification for. You mentioned in this here in this video that don't think that I am making that devotee. These people are ready, and Krishna is sending them. So that is a very distinctive point, because a lot of people are coming to the Krishna consciousness movement, and many of the Prabhupada disciples think that, oh, I'm so great, or I'm such a powerful person that. But here you mentioned that point, that don't think that. What was it exactly you were saying, Ishan Prabhu? Can you elaborate?
That Srila Prabhupada explains. Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto. Sarvasya means all. Sarvasya chaham, I. Sarvasya chaham, that I'm hridi san. I'm in every hridi, in the heart. I'm in everyone's heart. Mata, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So Krishna gives us. So Srila Prabhupada explains that when Krishna sees that any individual spirit soul is becoming ready to hear, he's had enough of this desire, birth after birth, maybe for millions of births, to be somebody special, to be Krishna, to try and be, to enjoy independent of Krishna's service. When he sees that this spirit soul is starting to relent, starting to weaken in his determination to be an outstanding rascal, he gives that individual soul the ability to be attracted to this philosophy. He gives that individual the ability to read these books and say, wow, this is wonderful. This is so beautiful. This is the answer I've been looking for. It's the only person who can recognize these books is the person that Krishna gives the ability. So Krishna is the one who puts them in touch with the teachings, or Krishna is the one who puts us in touch with Krishna's pure devotee. Another person can't recognize Krishna's pure devotee. Only those who Krishna gives the ability, because Krishna in our heart sees that our stubborn, perverse desire to try and exploit the material nature, to be, a rebel against Krishna and be Krishna, take Krishna's position. Why should everyone love him? Why not I should be the center of the world as much as possible? So when that perversity starts to dwindle, starts to be worn down by this terrible suffering in the material world, it's all for our benefit, because nothing's happening to us. We don't die. We don't get sick. We don't grow old. We don't get in a plane crash or a car. That's the material body. But the material, it's a gross dream. Just like we have a subtle dream at night, it's made of material energy. It's subtle material energy, but nothing's happening to us. The body's lying in the bed. It's not going to help. The tiger is chasing me. There's no tiger. Similarly, in the daytime, we have a gross dream. None of these things are happening to us, but it's like hypnotherapy. Now you're growing old. Now you're in a plane crash. Now your husband is leaving you. Now your children is being killed in a car accident. Now your business is collapsed. Now you have cancer. Nothing's happening to us, but we're in therapy. It's hypnotherapy. We identify with it as reality. And it wears us down. You say, well, how can I'm trying so hard to be happy. Is there an answer? Is there an answer to all of this? And Krishna said, oh, he's ready. I'll put him in touch with my pure devotee. And how do we get in touch with the truth? Because we're not advanced enough to know that Srila Prabhupada is available to all of us within the heart at every moment.
Right.
So we have a relationship with Srila Prabhupada first through his words, through his books. It's not different from Srila Prabhupada. It's absolute, but in that way we can relate. Nobody can make us, no other devotee has made us into a devotee. That other devotee is used by Krishna to put a book in our hand.
Right.
So nobody should become proud that I'm a great devotee making so many devotees. We're making nothing. We're just being given a chance to be an instrument. So what's the rest of this purport?
Here we go.
So a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for his devotional service. It's such a foolish devotee. They're put into difficulty sometimes by the Lord himself. As a special favor, he may remove all this paraphernalia. And by such action, the bewildered devotee, he's forsaken by all his friends and relatives. And so he comes to his senses again by the mercy of the Lord. He comes to his senses again. And he's set right to execute devotional service, not to glorify himself. Foolish people. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's also said that such fallen devotees, they're given a chance to take birth in a family of highly qualified Brahmins or a rich mercantile family. A devotee in such a position is not as fortunate as one who is chastised by the Lord and put into a position of seemingly helplessness. Imagine, Srila Prabhupada is telling us that if Krishna is kind, he gives us all kinds of things. If he's really kind, he's going to take us down. He's going to make us feel helpless, which we actually are. So we're a little afraid, to say to Krishna, I'm so full of material desire and I'm encouraged because I'm a little more intelligent. Seems like I can make some money. It seems like I can do this, I can do that. We're afraid to, Krishna, I want to become a devotee. Do whatever's necessary to break me down. Do whatever's necessary so I'll know that I have no hope of nowhere else to turn except to turn to your lotus feet for your shelter. We're afraid to do that, but actually, that's the position. Queen Kunti prays in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when we were helpless, we always had you, Akinchana Gochara, no other, we have no other recourse except you. When we were helpless, we always had you, but now we won the battle of Kurukshetra. We have palaces, we have kingdoms, we have everything one could imagine, but now you're going back to Dwarka because you think we don't need your help anymore. He said, better we should be poor and in trouble again, because then we can have your association. She's praying like that. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the devotee who becomes helpless by the will of the Lord is more fortunate than those who are born in good family. A fallen devotee born in a good family, he may forget the lotus feet of the Lord because they're less fortunate. But the devotee who's put into a forlorn condition is more fortunate. Imagine, we don't want sickness. We don't want to break a leg. We don't want these things to happen. But the devotee who's put into a forlorn condition is more fortunate because he swiftly returns to the lotus feet of the Lord, thinking himself helpless all around, in every way. In other words, I am helpless. Do with me what you want. I can't. Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable. So this is to encourage us what's up ahead for us, because we're not feeling like that now. We're neophytes. We're just beginning to respond to the treatment, but we're not healthy yet. Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically a devotee becomes uninterested in material enjoyment. Imagine that. Pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. And that's the sign of perfection, of progressive devotional service. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of the Lord Sri Krishna. He does not forget him even for a moment, not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds. Imagine you were offered not just to win the lottery, not just to have a couple of $1 billion, not just to say you own, people buy real estate, 5 houses, 10 houses, and they collect rent. Not to have, but to own every house in the material world and to have unlimited billions, not even on this planet. There's millions of planets. To own all of that, all of those planets, hey, a pure devotee, and not only that, this is one universe and there's unlimited millions of universes. And a pure devotee, he doesn't forget Krishna for a moment, even if he was offered to own the whole material creation. It's insignificant to him. He's like garbage in the street. Like garbage in the street to him. It's all fabrication. It's all phantasmagoria. It doesn't even really exist. It's just the material energy made to look like reality. It's a reflection. Everything here is only like a perverted reflection, like in the mirror, there's a reflection of the person who's standing in front of the mirror, but you can't embrace that reflection. There's nobody there. Everything in this material world is a reflection of the reality in the spiritual world. And he sees it as such. Who wants that? It's useless. It has no substance. It's a shadow. It's a shadow. Where there's a shadow, you know there's a real person behind that shadow, but you can't embrace the shadow. It's because there's nobody there. This whole material world is a shadow of the spiritual world. So a devotee has that understanding. Krishna gives him, that's called knowledge. Jnana and Vairagya. Because he has jnana, knowledge given by Krishna, he has Vairagya. He sees it as nothing, as what does Srila Prabhupada say? Something in the sky, just imagination, just imagination. So a pure devotee, he's so much relishing this devotion to Krishna, and that he's just in ecstasy. Srila Rupa Goswami describes it as diving in an ocean of ecstasy, diving and surfacing in ecstasy, and it just goes on expanding without limit. This is what we'll be like when we become spiritually healthy. This is what is being offered to us. Come forward, take it. So a pure devotee continuously, because he can't forget. He can't forget for a second Krishna, because he loves it so much. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna and does not forget him, even for a moment, not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds, the whole upper, middle, and lower planetary system. There's nothing to him. Nothing to him. So, but he'll engage, how can I use all these facilities in Krishna's service? How can I serve Krishna in my present condition? So that's what we're engaged in. We're little babies. We're in our neophyte stage of Krishna consciousness. We don't have this, so we have to cultivate. We have to cultivate, and gradually become, just as we're addicted materially, we'll become addicted spiritually. We'll gradually become mad after it. That's wonderful. And from birth after birth, we're moving away from this. We have something real to look forward to, and along the way, we like it. We start to like it more and more. Every day, something nice happens, and we have some beginning taste of this Krishna consciousness. It makes us want more. So that's our position. So we're very, very fortunate. So we should take advantage of this great opportunity and continue to try and surrender in Krishna consciousness.
Try. A pure devotee continuously remembers the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, and does not forget him even for a moment, not even in exchange for all the opulence of the three worlds.
You know what I read? I read in the Bhagavatam today that a pure devotee, that we all have a television set in the heart, just like you have a television set and it's broadcast from some station. And you can see what's happening there on the top. We all have the heart, Srila Prabhupada, is like a television set, and you can see the whole Krishna Loka. you can see all the activities of the spiritual world. And not only, it's like a video game is not something you watch, right? It's interactive. You go in, you participate. Not only does the devotee see the whole spiritual world on his television set in the heart by Krishna's mercy, it's interactive. He enters into those activities even while he's here still in the material world. And no one can understand the pure devotee. He's not interested in anything except devotional service. And sometimes he becomes totally, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but the idea is he doesn't even know that he's in the material world. Sometimes he's dancing like a mad person, sometimes singing, sometimes he's rolling on the ground, chanting in ecstasy, and sometimes he's in a trance, and no one can touch him.
Is it Atmarama?
Atmarama means self-satisfied, satisfied. That's Atmarama. Yeah, spiritually, the Atma, the spiritual self, is having pleasure. Yeah.
Jai. All right.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, just some comments from our devotees watching online. I'll just read that.
Yeah.
1 second. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Arishto Prabhu is saying Hare Krishna. Arishto Prabhu is also saying all glories to Srila Prabhupada. My obeisances to all devotees in attendance this evening. Bhakti Peter Prabhu is saying Jai. Srila Prabhupada mentions that we have become callous to the sufferings in the material world. Then Peter Prabhu saying, poor people that win the lottery, in most cases, it turns out very badly. Even books written on this subject. Then Saurabh Sahu Prabhu saying, what you can do if your family not interested in spirituality, what is the solution? Then Peter Prabhu says, that's a tricky subject. There's 4 different kinds of people that come to Krishna. Usually a person is curious or suffering and turn to spirituality to fill a deep need. It depends where your family members are. He's responding to Saurabh Sahu. Huh?
It depends where your family members are at.
Yes, it depends where your family members are at. Okay. Saurabh Sahu Prabhu is saying, my father is very conservative type of person. I once said, why you not chanting in Japa Mala? He said, my chanting is always going on in my mind. He also many different conceptions of his own philosophy. He just stick into that. Well, that's good. Mental chanting is better than nothing. Ravana was very materially advanced. Saurabh Sahu Prabhu saying, yes, if he's really doing that, then Peter Prabhu saying, he was quite a scary guy. Saurabh Sahu. Also, he has difficulty to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality, eating non-veg everything.
Gross.
It's very difficult, Prabhu, to sustain in your own bhakti when you're around these types of family members. So these are some of the devotees that were following the program, the discussions today. So they made these comments as our discussion we were discussing. So thank you, Prabhu. Okay, there's another question. How can I always remember Krishna without distraction by the material atmosphere? How can I always remember Krishna without distraction by the material atmosphere? Well,
we have 2 minutes.
Yes. Well, the whole creation, the material world is created by Krishna. So you have
by
to
chanting 16 rounds a day.
Right. Yes. chanting, hearing Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smarnam. So this is the process to
Yeah.
change our consciousness and see
Yeah.
how Krishna is totally in control of the whole material world. It's
You
not
go to a doctor. You go to the doctor. You have to follow the prescription of the doctor.
yes.
Srila Prabhupada, he gives us the prescription, as Rupa Manjri Prabhu is saying. There's a process for becoming cured of our material disease. The material diseases. So we're in a diseased condition of consciousness. So there's a process. So if one follows the process, we do this and don't do this. We have regulative principles. Without accepting the regulative principles, it's not possible to be attracted that our heart will change. And then the chant 16 rounds, pay obeisances every day to Krishna and to our spiritual master and to Lord Chaitanya. Pray read all the Srila Prabhupada's books. Read every day, an hour, 2 hours every day. Chant 16 rounds. Offer our foodstuff to Krishna through the parampara, at the feet of our spiritual master. Take taking prasadam. It's not something that's stamped. If you go, like I was raised in the Jewish culture, they have kosher food. The priest or the rabbi says a prayer, and then the food is somehow blessed by God. So if you go to the store and it's it's stamped kosher, and you say, okay, I only buy kosher, but you never think of anything. You never think of God. You just eat. It's kosher. So if we say, oh, it's prasadam, hey, and then how do we take prasadam? And we say, Sharira Vidya. And in love, the last line of this prayer, call on the help of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. Yeah, we're contemplating this is Krishna in the form of food stuff. Krishna, and every bite, thinking like that. That's honoring prasadam. Not that it's rubber stamped prasadam. Now I can think of everything under the sun and eat, swallow, and fill my belly. That's not honoring prasadam. That's not honoring. So there's a process. And so he was asking, how can we protect ourselves from the things of this material world, the distractions. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. This is for our benefit. Chant 16 rounds. Get up early in the morning. Take a shower. Bathe yourself. Clean the outside, the body. Engage in, chant your 16 rounds. Read Srila Prabhupada's book. Maybe think within yourself, how can I do something that will please Srila Prabhupada? He maybe I can distribute a book. Maybe if I'm like me, I'm a very shy person. I don't know how to sell people books, so I buy a case of little books and I give them away. I say, I go to the store and the cashier is there. I pull out of my bag, Perfection of it. I say, hey, take this book, read it, check it out. They say, oh, thank you. Then the person said, no, I don't need it. Thank you very much. But there's so many ways we can try to do something.
But Prabhupada said we need to take a donation for a book.
Yeah. So he was running his temples on that money, and he was printing more books on that money. But I'm living in the material world, and I have an income, so I can use it. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if it's a bad thing to give a
Yeah, at
book
least
away.
giving it for free is better than not distributing at all.
I enjoy it. I enjoy giving it. And some people are so happy. I say, "Oh, thank you so much." They're pleased. And they're touching Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada said, anyone who touches one of my books, what to speak of reading, But I'm not a very, I'm not a very forceful person, and but I'm trying in my own small way to do something every day like that. And if
Okay,
I
we
have a
should wrap
chance,
up for the night.
Jai, thank you, Prabhu. We're at 9 o'clock. Our program goes from 7 to 9. We're at 9:05. So thank you, Ishan Prabhu, Rupa Manjari, Vinayak, Janaspriya, Robert, Virat, and our online viewers. We will continue next week. And if anyone has any comments, please post in the video comments box or join the WhatsApp group if you want to participate for the live reading next Sunday. Thank you, Prabhu.
Great. Jai.
Hare
All glories to
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada.
All
All
glories
praise
to
to
Srila
Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare